my hometown defense silo. New Richland, yeah, they've been farming forever and I didn't get a hold of them and I was going down. Nice quality. Bought my high school. So bad.
He will not be here tonight. He's
Yeah.
got,
Yeah, he said to you,
yeah,
is that his daughter's graduation?
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Alright.
all right. It's 6 o'clock. I'll call the planning commission meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's planning commission meeting. We're a group of local residents, your neighbors who are appointed to serve the community by reviewing development proposals and land use matters in accordance with the city's ordinances. As a quasi judicial body, our role is not to advocate for or against any proposal, but rather to ensure that each application is reviewed based on facts presented, applicable law, and the policies established in our comprehensive plan. Our goal is to uphold the process that is fair, transparent, and consistent. Public hearings are a vital part of this process, and they provide opportunities for community members like you to speak, share concerns, and offer input into the public record. Please know that we value your comments. So the following is the general order for public hearings. Staff will present a summary for each item along with the staff report and findings, and commissioners may ask questions and following the presentation. The applicant that will then have the opportunity to speak and respond to questions from the commission. Sorry, my mouse just jumped. The chair will then open the floor for public comment, and if you choose to speak, please come to the podium, clearly state your name and address for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. And after public comment, the hearing will close, and at which time the commissioners may hold further discussion and possible action. Please note that we're a recommending body as opposed to one that makes a decision. The final decisions are made by the city council after considering the commission's findings. So with that, thank you for being here. And our first item of business will be to approve or amend the agenda. All commission members have received a copy of tonight's agenda, which includes 2 items on the consent agenda, 1 public hearing, and 1 item under general business. I take a motion to approve or amend the agenda accordingly.
Second.
Do I have
The second. I'll make the motion.
Okay, we've got a motion from Commissioner Casey and a second by Commissioner Thieberap. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Our next order of business is the consent agenda. Those items on the planning commission agenda which are considered routine or non-controversial are included as part of our consent agenda. Unless a planning commission member specifically requests that an item on the consent agenda be removed and considered separately, items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, second, and vote. Any item removed from the consent agenda shall be placed at the end of general business. So we have two items on tonight's consent agenda, minutes from the March 20th and April 17th planning commission meetings. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda, consent agenda?
I move approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Our third item of business tonight is our public hearing on a request for a variance on property ID 0493300050. And so planning commission members this evening have received the staff report, variance application, survey, and related resolution. Before I open the public hearing, I'd like city staff to summarize the request for variance and offer any relevant background.
Thank you, Chair Olson. As stated, the variance application for you tonight for PID 0493300050 is a request to build a home on the existing parcel prior to platting, as well as meeting current road frontage requirements. Planning staff does recommend approval of this variance application due to the pre-existing record of this lot as a meets and bounds description versus platting. At this time, the applicants are not planning or trying to do any future subdivision. They're just trying to get the single family home that was included in your packet built on this lot. Minnesota state statute does require the 3 practical difficulty measures that should be met to grant a variance. Staff has provided those draft findings in the staff report, specifically, the first practical difficulty that the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted in the zoning ordinance. Single family home is a permitted use in the rural residential district. Therefore, staff finds this to be a reasonable use of the property. The plight of the landowner is not due to circumstances, is due to circumstances unique to the property, not created by the landowner. This lot has been in existence prior to their ownership, as well as prior to the platting of Stonebridge, the development to the north. It was not included in the plat at that time, and is not the fault of the current property owners that Carbridge Court does not extend to the subject property in terms of that road frontage scenario with this request as well. And then the third practical difficulty that if granted, the variance would not alter the essential character of the locality. Again, the surrounding neighborhood is single family homes. The intended use is that, and would not alter staff does not find that this would alter the character of the surrounding neighborhood. So that's what I have. I'm happy to throw up the kind of site plan that was submitted just for record and those in attendance. If I can get to Zoom here, one sec. Or not. Maybe. Let's see. Can I share my screen? That's weird. Whatever. Okay. But this was also included in the staff packets, but you can kind of see where the driveway would be accessing from the existing cul-de-sac to the north, and then where they have the proposed home situated, as well as the alternative and primary septic sites as well for suitability for building on this parcel. So that's what I have.
Thank you. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of the applicant or the applicant themselves?
You had staff recommendation and its approval were amenable.
You're the applicant, just to clarify?
No, I'm a residential contractor that would be the one helping to build the house.
Got it. Thank you. At this time then, if there are no comments, then we would ask, we will open the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this request for variance? Anyone wishing to speak on or ask questions about this request for variance? Asking a third time. All right. Seeing none, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I move that we close the public hearing.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second that.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. At this time, do planning commission members have any questions about this request for variance?
My understanding this variance has been approved before.
Yeah, so they're different owners in 2021. The city code has an expiration date on variances as the resolution did as well, so. Yeah, but it's the same request. The house might be a little different than what was presented in 2021. We don't have those plans, but
Was there any
The
issues
variance
or
itself.
concerns previously with this, or?
not to my knowledge, and spoke with the city engineer who, has been with the city longer than I have, and he remembered this and sent me the resolution from 2021, so I included that in your packet.
Yeah, that was helpful for reference.
Just
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion on this request?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I have a motion. Pending and incorporating the staff report.
Correct, yep. I'll make a motion to approve it with the staff report.
Alright. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right.
This will be on Monday's city council agenda.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Appreciate your help.
Yep.
Wait, thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Good luck.
Yeah, we'll look forward to Monday. Enjoy your evening. Thanks again.
And that was our last public hearing for the evening. We will move on now to general business, and under which we have one item, conditional use permit and interim use permit discussion. So planning commission members have received the Credit River uses table for conditional use permits and interim use permits, as well as the IUP memo to council. And I'd ask staff for a summary of this item.
Absolutely. So this item under general business, we're having this more of a discussion. This has been kind of on the radar of city staff as well as the city council, that there's quite a few uses within the use chart that have conditional, and interim is likely a better fit. My memo to council from March 12th kind of highlights at a high level kind of what that difference of the IUP versus the CUP. A way I like to think about it is really that if it's likely that a change of ownership or a change of development type is possible, that an interim use is likely better, whereas conditional, it's a little more permanent. Like, let's say, I think we kept, for instance, one of the existing CUP uses, like a church or a cemetery. That's very likely going to continue as that type of use. Or I think maybe we had, not that there are any in the city, but I thought there was a use for like a quick serve station or something that is better, better suited as a CUP. It's likely going to continue as a convenience store, or a use within that realm where some amendments may be necessary should ownership change and they want to do something a little different, but not to the point of expiration with change of ownership. So there are several uses that we kind of X'd out and put in red bold as interim use permit, like animal hospital, commercial accessory building, commercial nursery or greenhouse, you know, that may, and now the commercial nursery and greenhouse. I wanted to add on to that, that we did, as you probably remember, all of the cannabis uses were for the most part interim use permit. And that also, I think, spurred this discussion with council and staff, of this IUP versus, CUP. So really just wanted to kind of bring what staff's preliminary view of the C versus the I in the existing use table. See if the commission had any comments or feedback, and then if there's gonna be a quorum for June's meeting, we'd bring it back for a public hearing. If there's not, we can do it in July, but that's the intention background here. And like I said, if you have any questions about specific uses or want me to dig in a little more specific, I certainly can. But this was just our initial stab based on our experience in other communities and just kind of how we understand the easiness of administering an interim use versus conditional that's kind of stuck and really hard to pull back unless they're like violating, and enforcement and violation is expensive. And so.
Yes, this topic has come up in discussion at various points in my time with the planning commission and in meetings that I've seen, so I was really I really welcome the discussion on this. I think it is a good opportunity for us to review. With what we have that's existing, was that what we inherited then from Scott County, or we made many amendments?
I think
to
for the most part, it's probably still from Scott County. And, you know, the community probably has its own vision from what then when it was a township now of kind of what, and there's also, I would say, more of an expansion of the types of uses that we're seeing people call and ask us about.
Okay.
That would be better suited on a and two, just with the larger lots that are within the city, you know, there's some opportunity for a little bit of that home-based business type that might come in. That IUPs would also be really beneficial to, help regulate.
Yeah. Looking at home extended business versus home occupations, can you kind of walk us through what the distinction is between the two?
Yeah, so the home extended businesses are only allowed on properties that are 10 acres or more. And then the zoning code, unfortunately, actually doesn't have a great definition distinction, but the way that we've been kind of helping applicants out, or a lot of it at this point, we haven't had, in my time with the city, we haven't had any applications for that, but we have had some high level questions. But the home extended it's a little more, it needs to be on more, but it's a little higher, what's the word? Intensity of the use. So, you know, on those home extended businesses, there's a little more regulation on like solid waste removal and noise levels that are already written in the code.
Got it.
Rather than the home occupation, which is more, you can't have another employee, you can't have, you can maybe have one car parked there, like let's say you're doing taxes out of your home. Okay, yeah, but you can't have two other accountants working in your basement seeing people as well. The home extended, that's probably not a great, because it's not an intensification of use, but it's a little more so for that kind of like on-site storage and maybe some heavy vehicles, is how it's written in the code right now.
That's helpful. Thank you. Are there other questions?
I got a couple. So what's the difference between just permitted, so like the P, and like a conditional use permit? So like, what's a good example? Like, so if you look at like fences, taller in height, so that's like a conditional use permit, but it seems like it should be a permit. Or what's the difference, I guess, between?
Yeah, so permitted means that when they call the city and ask they can do it, they can do it. They don't have to, they don't even need like a sign off from
Sure.
me or Steve or anything like that.
Right.
The code by right allows you to do it.
Yeah.
So then the conditional use, I like to think of conditional uses that you are still permitted to do it, but the city has the authority to put some conditions on it because it may fit within now, and there are some other performance standards that the code lists out, you know, with like conformity to the neighborhood and a couple other bullet point items, but really it's pretty difficult to deny a conditional use permit if they meet those other regulations. Again, the city can add lighting conditions, parking conditions, noise conditions if they're enforceable. I mean, or they can add it and try and enforce it. So I think that's also where we're trying to find is what has been difficult to administer and enforce, or maybe has gone away with some of the existing CUPs that aren't getting enforced. You know, how can we make it a little better? So, yeah, that's really the difference. So, and then like, obviously CUPs require a public hearing notice to the neighbors.
Mhm.
Again, and that's because they don't fully fit, but they fit enough with
Sure.
potential conditions.
Sure.
That's the best way.
So the Ps are pretty much automatic as long as they're within.
Yeah, the way this use chart is the Ps are automatic,
Mhm.
and then I'm not 100% sure what, and then all the others, like if it's empty, that means it's not permitted in your
Mhm.
use chart.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess I think as many eyes as you can get on there, I think they make a lot more sense than
Mhm.
than the conditional uses. It's just a lot easier to enforce, and it gives you a clear way out if people aren't following the rules, and
Mhm.
it's yeah.
Yeah, you can be more, you know, let's say one comes in and you're like, well, yeah, this seems pretty low intensity. It makes sense to have this renewed in 5 years. And there might be
Sure.
one where you're like, this might be a trial run. Let's
Right,
renew this
yeah.
in 1 year, but
Yeah.
it's to the discretion then of
Mhm.
staff's recommendation, the commission's recommendation, and then council's final discussion on it. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Right.
there's no set, just because it's IUP, there's nothing in your code that specifies it has to be set to so many years. That is up
Sure.
to the individual application.
Other questions?
Yeah, just kind of a educational question, maybe for myself. Now, you can look at some of these that have conditional already on there. Say someone came in asking for a conditional use permit, but then we look at it and we decide we'd like to make this a interim.
Mhm.
We just, it's so, say for instance, like salvage yards, number 88 on the sheet here. It's a conditional use.
Right, yeah. Mhm.
But we thought, well, no, we don't want to be conditional. So we need to have these designations on the sheet, or, and of course, when me, someone comes in and says, I'm on conditional use. And we say, looking at everything you've presented, we think this is probably better in interim.
Yeah, it could, you could, I would want to double check with the city attorney on if we could have C and IUP as an option for some. I have not seen that in like my practice.
I'm just.
Right.
I'm just trying to discover.
Right, just because then you'd be potentially unequitable to two similar type, like, let's say you had 2 salvage yard applications and one's in this location and one's in this, and they have
Right.
an easier path forward with an IUP because they're also, maybe they're in a better location. Maybe this one's not, you know, you get a little bit into that. We try and produce every application through the same process a little
Okay.
bit, as much as we can. I mean, obviously, things are looked at on a individual basis on some of those specific requirements for CUPs, variances, et cetera, but yeah.
My second comment or question is that some of the changes that were made on here, of course, a lot of these involve like industrial accessory buildings and
Mhm.
salvage yard, as I mentioned, a recycling center. Now, say for instance, when you look at the interim definition, someone comes in and meets all the criteria. We say, okay, you have a salvage yard,
Mhm.
and then, okay, you give like, we say a 5 year. 5 years is up, we don't renew the interim,
Mhm.
you still have a salvage yard there.
Yes.
Um,
Well, if you don't renew it because they're in violation of, but the interim use would have conditions built in, just like a conditional use permit.
Sure.
That would probably consider remediation of the site,
Oh, okay.
mitigation of that, and then, yeah, terms that it may not get renewed due to, if that makes sense. So it's hard because conditional use has the word conditions in it, but there's still conditions listed in interim use
Right, okay.
permits.
So
Yeah, so I guess we'd ensure that that's taken into
So-
consideration.
So that, just to be down the line that when we
Yeah.
go through the interim use definitions, the city code, which I'm looking at on page 36.
Yep,
We would put in there that, okay, depending on the property and what is going on with it, there would be a remediation or something. Because if it's like, I know the salvage yard is kind of an extreme one, but other ones would be like accessory buildings, there's a, motor vehicle repair garage.
Mhm.
So you'd, so with that. If something would happen, that we'd have to have something built in upfront, that
yes,
something that they would do, then that can be remedied or
yes.
put back to original, whatever.
Exactly, and if they don't have if they don't have a permit through the city, then they're running a business in violation of the city code.
Right.
So that would be ground, yeah, like if the permit's not renewed and they're continued to operate, that's grounds for violation and further enforcement. That's outside of the commission's hands.
Okay, so. But basically, if there was any kind of a decision, there was like, I think. 23 that were changed from conditional to I, so I
Yeah.
like that. And I agree, I think some sort of a interim use permit. Gives a flexibility, it doesn't have that set permanence that.
Right.
conditional use has. I guess. As part of the definition for conditional and interim. And also compliance, setting up. Parameters within the zoning and everything that.
Yes, yeah, so page, I think it's 40 through 43 of the city code has some of those like criteria for granting the interim use permits, additional conditions. I apologize that I didn't put that in your packet. But, some of those suggested additional conditions are, limiting the number of signs or requiring fencing or landscape, similar to the CUPs, right? Things we tend to think about to mitigate effect on surrounding neighbors or, but then, yeah, it says the city council can specify a time period or an event that may terminate the permit and will be a condition of the permit. As well as several other things. So,
Okay.
yeah,
As long as I guess we have things where not stuck with a cleanup of some sort.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, no, I 100% agree, because that can happen with a conditional use permit, unfortunately, too, but more so with the interim, if there's, like you said, if they're actively operating and. I really only anticipate that. I only tend to see a non-renewal of an interim use permit if they're not in compliance with their permit. And then we'd probably have some sort of agreement that they'd work with city staff to bring it into conformance, come back to the commission or council. Showing that they've made that progress to get them the IUP either reinstated or renewed 5 more years or whatever it may be. Yeah.
Okay.
And if they're done operating, then that's kind of on the landowner to, ensure that clean, whoever's gonna get it ready for the next person that's gonna buy it, right?
Right.
Or operate it. So.
Okay,
Are there other questions?
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
For the large assemblies, is that like a one-time event or is it like? Multiple?
Let me go to the definitions real quick.
Just kind of curious, I guess.
Yeah, so that's for large events of 250 or more individuals.
So like, let's say there's like a graduation party or like a wedding kind of thing, or is it more not like private? Or yeah, more of a kind of like a corporate event kind of thing or
Yeah, so the code specifies, you know, that it's 250 or more individuals conducted in accordance with proper and acceptable sanitary, police, fire, health, safety considerations. And that, you know, there's permit is required for that. Like I think that's what the AD, yeah, means. But there's a whole bunch of sub-regulations for that particular use, so I don't know if it would consider like a graduation party.
Maybe like more like an outdoor amphitheater.
Yeah.
Some music events or. Shows, stuff.
Permanent.
That's, yeah.
Makes sense.
Shooting.
Yeah, it's a really, yeah. Like. This is interesting. I've never had to look into this use before because we haven't gotten a request about it.
And at this stage, what we've done is really look at where we've had conditional use as the option in the past, and we're really thinking about where an interim use may make sense, or interim use permit might make sense instead.
Yes.
We haven't really altered or changed any of or added or subtracted any of the categories.
No, that is correct. These are all, if there was a change, you'd have a strikeout with red. So yeah, this is all what's existing in the city's code currently, and I think we're recommending a change to at least 20 something uses. Yeah.
This is just a point of curiosity. I see restaurant, including fast food and drinking establishment, as conditional within the commercial
Mhm.
zone. Is there a reason why that might not work as an interim?
I guess it could be an interim. I think I was anticipating, for the most part, once those buildings are
Mhm.
created with the kitchens and the grease, all of the stuff, that
Yeah,
it's usually renovated into another type of restaurant or
Yeah.
fast food rather than
that makes sense.
a
I figured
yoga
it was probably
studio.
something like that.
Yeah, but it could probably be an interim, but I think usually that style of building, like,
Yeah.
is,
That makes sense.
or it's gonna cost a lot of money to renovate all that stuff out if you're not gonna use it.
Yeah, for sure. That's just helpful context, some of the more intensive land uses in particular. It really was, to me, it makes sense. In this one, I was just like, wonder
Mhm.
what's going on with that. So,
Absolutely.
other questions, comments? I'm glad we're having the discussion. I think this is it's something that's come up a few different times, and so I was glad to see it pop up on the agenda.
Yes, it's been ready since March, but we knew we had a full agenda last month, so I thought this month would be better.
Yeah. Well, as this is under general business, there's no need for a motion or recommendation that I understand.
Nope, it seems like you have pretty general consensus that what staff's provided is good. Of course, if you have any other specific uses or ones that we didn't change or vice versa, you all have my email, and we'll this gets posted, let's see, I think the last week of June, it has to go to the paper for public hearing notice. So that would just be when I would like to have comments by, so that we can have the correct draft available to the public when we notice the hearing. So,
Mhm.
and that is if there's going to be a quorum in June.
Makes sense.
So that's all.
All right. If there's nothing else, then we are up to item 5, which is, may I get a motion to adjourn?
We'll make a motion to adjourn.
I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.